Content presented in Cheshire Corners is for educational and informational purposes only. Please consult a legal professional if you have any questions or concerns about the content of this disclaimer, this series, or the legal implications surrounding psychedelic substances in your jurisdiction.
Welcome to Cheshire Corners. My name is Rita Tsalyuk, and let's trip together through the looking glass. And I have remotely my wonderful guest, Halverson-Ramos. Did I say it correct?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining. And you have a lot of titles. You have a title of licensed counselor in Colorado, right?
Yes, I'm also a board-certified music therapist. And earlier in May, I got my license to be a licensed addiction counselor. So those are three different hats that I wear, along with the supervision services that I provide to other behavioral health providers and music therapists.
And you, even having all those titles, you're still studying?
Yes, because I am a lifelong learner. I love learning. I just completed my second year of doctoral studies in music therapy at Colorado State University.
When I'm going to think about you, I'm probably going to just say faith and music.
Yes, put the two together.
Put the two together.
Exactly. I will also just say that part of my research interest for my dissertation process is on the use of music in psychedelic-assisted therapy. And at this point, I'm thinking of looking specifically at the use of music in ketamine-assisted therapy, since that is what is currently most prominent above ground in the state. And the university has requirements on what I'm able to study. They say that everything needs to be above ground at this point. So
it's great. We're very much above ground here.
Really, I'd like to make one point clear about drugs. First of all, I don't feel a certain specific fixed way about drugs. I think the worst thing about drugs is that they're illegal, and I think that that's the real thing that creates problems on all those levels, and that's just my own observation. And it doesn't mean that make all drugs legal or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but that's what I think.
That leads to
I think that that's what's really wrong about it, more than anything else.
We're doing everything in the white space. We have cannabis in the white space, and now we're going to have psychedelic in the white space. We're going to try to change the coffee joint to the consumption lounge for psychedelics and use their microdosing option. We'll see how that's going to go for us.
Yeah, I love the idea. I'm so curious to learn more about how it will all unfold.
I was thinking about this music for a while, for the mental health.
This is Ravi, Shankar. This is George Harrison. Before you came out, George was saying, I don't know if you could hear it back there because you were sitting in place, that people often think that there must be an intimate connection between Indian music and drugs, maybe because of the bizarre sound, and to play that way, or to appreciate it at least, there should be a drug connection. He said that that's not
wrong. Sure, you call him bizarre, Dick.
Yes, I object to that word bizarre.
Oh, not, I meant B-A-Z-A-A-R, the other, no, wait a minute, there's no way I can get out of this. To Western ears, the unusual sound might suggest some sort of chemical intoxication.
But now I'm specifically thinking about it because I'm making arrangements for my dad's 90th birthday. And he is luckily, knock on wood, a healthy 90-years-old guy who is hiking and walking and going to concerts. And I was thinking, where is this longevity come from. And he loves music. He always singing, and he has his own tunes that he loves. And I think maybe if you kind of balance yourself and get yourself in the same tune and wave and rhythm as the universe, you're feeling better and you live longer. What do you think?
I think that there is something to be said for finding a place of homeostasis and equilibrium with how one navigates in the world. I think music can help support that, whether that is through making music and all of the wonderful things that happen neurologically and physiologically when you make music, not to mention how you can feel emotionally when you make music, or ways in which you can feel connected to something greater than yourself when you make music, but also when you're participating in musical performances, either as a performer or as an audience member. There's that social component as well, where you can feel a sense of belonging.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
It's so open and warm with these young people. They're so fresh, so much energy. But so many seem to be turning away from their roots. Here they have everything, and they want something else. They love our music, but they're in such a hurry. I would like to give them the right approach.
I think there is something to be said for that. And, of course, then there are also just what are beliefs that you have about yourself, and how do those beliefs influence the actions that you take. It sounds like your dad lives a pretty healthy and balanced lifestyle by, still going out for hikes and going to concerts. So I think there's a lot of things that can contribute to a good quality of life.
And I remember there was a little poetry back in Soviet Union, where I'm from, and it was saying that there was one genius person who played violin, and there was another genius person who listened to it.
That relational piece, I think, is important, just in general, because as humans, we are designed to be in relationship, and I think we're at a point in our society where we're really recognizing the need to be in relationship, as many of us are experiencing loneliness and isolation. And I think our mental health is being impacted as a result of that, of not feeling like we know where we belong, or having a hard time connecting with other like-minded people, which hopefully, with these consumption centers can help serve as a place for like-minded people to come together and kind of drop some of the defenses that many of us have developed as a way of protecting ourselves in society, and just be able to interact in meaningful and authentic ways with each other.
And Psychedelic Club of Denver already has Mycology meetups here, and now they planning social evenings here. So it's good, and it's going towards mushroom side, because cannabis is not such novelty anymore. So hopefully this will work out. So tell me one more thing. We here at Cheshire Corners writing a Bible of psychedelics. With that, we would like to hear from you and have a story of faith.
What kind of story of faith would you like to hear?
Tell me how that happens and faith decide to look into psychedelic and put music and psychedelic together.
First of all, when we took the notorious wonder drug LSD,
Yeah.
it was, we didn't know we were having it. John and I had this drug, and it was given, we were having dinner with our dentist. And he put it in our coffee and never told us. And we never heard of it. I mean, it's a good job we hadn't heard of it, because there's been so much paranoia created around the drug that people now, if they take it, they're already on a bad trip before they start. Whereas for us, we didn't know anything. We were so naive, and so we had it, and we went out to a club, and it was incredible. It was really incredible.
First of all, I would just say that perhaps unsurprisingly, with a name like Faith, I have long been interested in spirituality and ways that people make meaning in life. And I've also been pretty much an unconventional person my entire life, marching to the beat of my own drummer. And my undergraduate is in vocal performance and vocal pedagogy. And I realized by my senior year that I went to a Catholic university founded by Franciscan nuns. But I realized that I am not interested in performing for a living, but what I was interested in was the psychological and emotional process that a person goes through in order to learn music and to get on stage and perform music where you are the instrument, you have nothing to hide behind, and to be able to get other people to connect with the music. And I realized that what I really wanted to do was to support other people, and especially women, find ways of feeling more confident and embodied in using their voices.
Anyway, it's good to see you. Hey, why is it? I was thinking about it the other day. There aren't very many of you. By this, I mean... No. I mean superstar rock ladies like yourself. Who else? There's Mama Cass, maybe, and Gracie Slick. She's giggling, isn't she? Why aren't there more ladies who do what you do?
Singing.
And so at the time, my voice teacher had a brochure for the transpersonal counseling psychology program at Naropa University that had a music therapy focus. And at this time, I was living in Wisconsin, where I grew up. And when I read this brochure that was talking about this program, this counseling program that recognized that there is more to being human than just our bodies and our minds and our emotions, but that there's a spiritual and transpersonal dimension, I knew that that was what I was looking for. However, I wasn't quite ready to go to school, and I had plans to expatriate and ended up in the Czech Republic for a bit, in Denmark, and teaching in South Korea for a year. And it was at that point when I was in South Korea where I was singing with a choir. I developed a respiratory illness that affected the upper range of my voice. And I took that as a sign from the universe, so to speak, that I needed to be doing something different than teaching English. And I still had that brochure that my voice teacher had given me, and I decided that the only option I had was to take on more student loan debt and come back to the United States. And so I created an audition video for the program at Naropa. And on my last day of teaching in South Korea, I received notification that I had been accepted into the program. And so I came back to the U.S. And through my studies at Naropa, where I learned more about transpersonal psychology and some of the early research that was done with psychedelics that helped inform the transpersonal theory, I realized that, yes, music in helping facilitate these healing, non-ordinary states of consciousness was something that I was very interested in. And this was around the time when medical cannabis was just legalized in Colorado. And so I was kind of involved in that scene for a bit, working with people who had their medical cards. And I was just kind of doing my thing until a couple years ago when one of my professors at Naropa, who was now at CSU, asked me if I'd ever considered getting my PhD. And I told her I thought about that a lot over the 16 years it's been since I graduated. And they had graduate teaching assistantship positions available. And so I applied and realized that this was getting my PhD at CSU was a perfect opportunity for me to be able to further research how music can really support people who are seeking psychedelic-assisted therapy. When you consider how people who are coming to this form of treatment may have treatment-resistant depression or treatment-resistant PTSD or just conditions that aren't able to be well treated with the traditional first-line approaches to treatment, I thought this was a great opportunity to contribute to the field, taking a trauma-informed approach of how people can respond to music, really looking at people's personal relationships with music and seeing how that can help people when they are undergoing this type of treatment.
Once you get playing, hey, playing is just about feeling. Playing isn't necessarily about misery. Mm-hmm. Playing isn't necessarily about happiness, but it's just about letting yourself feel all those things that you have already on the inside of you, but you're all the time trying to push them aside because they don't make for polite conversation or something. But if you just get up there, and that's the only reason I can sing is because I just close my eyes and let all those things that are inside just come out.
So we all know that people on psychedelics, specifically in a healing environment, would like to have music on. That's a general knowledge, but what would PhD know about this?
When a person is under the influence of a psychedelic, that the music takes on this whole other dimension that is much greater than what the therapists and the practitioners have considered. It's like the music becomes this living entity that can speak directly to people and can help guide them through their journey. And it's not so much about like the therapist administers music that follows this really rigid and structured protocol, but it's rather like there's a need to understand what a person's relationship with music is like and to be able to have a clear understanding of what a person's, what are some key moments from a person's life that may come back to them during this treatment, and then being aware of how the music can support that, facilitate that, or exacerbate that. And so it's really important as well for the therapist to have a clear understanding of the music that's being used as well, so that they can know how to respond in the moment if necessary, and to be able to help guide a person if that is needed. I think everybody's situation is different. I would imagine, this is me just projecting, reflecting on the work that I've done as a therapist in hospice, in working with people at end of life, but I would imagine that the experiences that a person who is at end of life and realizes that they are at end of life would have a different feel or flavor than the experiences of someone who is a young adult or is middle-aged but doesn't have a life-limiting illness, but they may be dealing with depression and seeking some relief from depression or PTSD.
So I agree, and I always feel that music is a bigger container than words, than just words. But how do you see is a therapist's role to come up with the right music that would fit that specific person?
The importance of sort of orienting people to the experience. So as part of the preparation, giving them a little example of what the music could be like that they'll use in the session, so that a person can kind of become acclimated to it. But to go back to your question, I think that it is important for therapists to have an understanding of what kinds of music and what kinds of sounds people like or don't like, and to take that into account either when putting together a playlist or when selecting a playlist to be used. But I think that it is important for either clients to have some sort of direct input, or the therapist to have a clear understanding of what kinds of music and sounds a person likes or doesn't like. I especially think of that in terms of, when there are people who may have sensory processing challenges, whether that's because the person is autistic and may have sensory dysregulation challenges, or a person has a condition that leaves them feeling more sensitive to sounds. I think that's important for therapists to take into account, along with therapists having a good understanding of what all is on the playlist that they're going to be using, so that they can also anticipate what's coming next and be able to observe and be attuned to how the person is responding to the music in the moment.
And I want to come back to your spiritual understanding and experiences, because it seems like wherever you did, all various different things were all around spirituality. From the time you were going to Catholic education, you were trying to learn and find your spiritual yourself, right, to the other things. And I think psychedelics are a big part of that spirituality.
I think so too. I think that is something that is missing for a lot of people, is that sense of connection to something greater than ourselves. Ultimately, my belief is that we are amazing creators that are interconnected with each other as human beings, and we're interconnected with the planet on which we live and from which we depend on our survival, whether that is the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, the food that we eat. And so I think that it's important that people rediscover that sacred interconnection that exists between us and all living things. And I think that psychedelics can help remind people of that in a really beautiful way. And I don't want to dismiss that people can have challenging experiences. I attended a webinar last week by someone who self-described psychedelic evangelist, had all these different kinds of psychedelic experiences for years, but had an experience with ayahuasca that left him in a very difficult mental space for for a year. And he came up with this theory of psychedelic-induced, psychedelic iatrogenic stress disorder, I believe. But point is that for people who may have experienced profound trauma in early childhood, sometimes psychedelic experiences could bring up that trauma. So I don't want to just paint it all as rainbows. But I think that for many people who don't have a significant trauma history, that it can be a great tool for self-discovery. And for people who do have trauma histories, to be able to feel able to do the work to heal from trauma, to integrate those experiences and hopefully develop post-traumatic growth, then they can also come to recognize our interconnectedness.
Yes, and I would like to ask all our viewers, please, put a comment. Find more information about Faith and the music that she's suggesting. Learn about her, learn about us, put like, and definitely subscribe to this channel. With that, I just kind of want to go towards the end of our discussion, but it's very hard for me not to paint the world in rainbow colors, because I think with this legalization, we will start learning what works and what doesn't work better. People with PhD like you will research, will document. There's going to be some new drugs based on psychedelics, and pharmaceutical industry will jump a little bit higher than they were before. Our toolbox is going to get bigger. Our understanding of reality maybe gonna get a little bit deeper or wider. I see that things coming definitely in rainbow colors, although we will have setbacks. I understand we will have, but it's still very exciting time.
Indeed it is.
Thank you so much, Faith, for coming, for meeting us, for having this conversation. I hope to see you at the coffee joint at some point, having a musical event, because I think music is really huge healing instrument.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be fun to do some sort of vocal drumming experience. But I also imagine I will see you at Psychedelic Science in a couple of weeks in Denver.
Absolutely. I'll find you for sure. Give you a hug. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate all our viewers. Again, like, subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So Jonathan will put it together, put some music in it.